like to invite the chairman of P1 Business Owners, Pastor Dr. Philip Igbini Jesu, a senior pastor of Word Assembly. Please give him a round of applause as he comes to share a few words.
Our very distinguished chairman and group president of the P1 group, and all the group executive directors, managing directors, and all the distinguished ladies and gentlemen here. My job is very easy because I've been privileged to be a part of this, observing it from the beginning and knowing exactly where we are. It's such an honor to be able to present this very important talk, keynote address, whatever you want to call it. This is coming because of my very firm belief in the promise of this organization. So I want to share what I believe will be needful for the next phase of this organization. And so for everyone who believe you are a partaker in the destiny of this organization and you are positioning to be a part of the evident greatness that will yet happen the more, then it's important for you to listen so that you can position yourself right in the midst of this. I'm going to do a presentation on the topic. By all indicators, the next frontier for the P1 group is both a consolidation of the present dominance and of course a global expansion. Yes, if you want to celebrate, you can go ahead and celebrate that. Even those who are competitors cannot but admit that P1 is in charge, at least when it comes to real estate network marketing in the whole of the sub-region. So I believe the first thing is that the next phase is to consolidate, and then to be able to now, as the theme of this meeting says, begin to position for global expansion. And I really want to speak to that. Then of course, if we are to be able to establish a global presence, it needs to meet several key requirements. Global penetration and dominance is the next phase of this organization. And like with every other organization that play on a global arena, there are certain non-negotiables that we cannot but position to fully meet. And I have no doubt, looking at the awesome talents, incredible gifts of men and women in this organization, I know this is a possibility. So I have no doubt as to whether or not we can meet it. But it's important for us to remind ourselves that in order to do it, we've got to know exactly what it will entail, so that not only do we position, we can vigorously pursue it until we see its attainment and full accomplishment. All right? There are several things that are required if we are to do that. The first one is to engage in what I call market research and understanding. Market research and understanding. I'm going to make the slide available to all the group managing directors on the directors platform so we can have it. So let's just follow. Now, the first aspect is a comprehensive knowledge of global markets, including the cultural nuances and the consumer behavior and competitive landscape as an essential component. Once you move from nation to nation, you just discover that everything differs in the way they do business. Because I'm a part of this group, and every time I have an opportunity, I was in Rwanda, Ivory Coast, and in South Africa, and I was sharing with them the incredible story of the P1 group. And I was trying to find out if we are to bring P1 here and do what we are doing so well in Nigeria, what will it take? And then they began to share the differences in how their business landscape work. So I believe that this organization will have a responsibility to set up an R&D department as a first step. Because you see, whether it's in warfare or in business, before you get into a place, you need to know about the place. And knowing about the place is the first real indicator that you are ready to actually enter there. So we need to do something about market research and understanding by creating this organization is blessed with incredible talents. We just need to harness that abilities that are resident within to be able to occasion those kind of results. And of course, conduct thorough market research to identify target demographics, demand patterns, and potential growth opportunities. Right now, essentially, the biggest clientele we have are people of African and particularly Nigerian origin. But as we go further out, you will discover that we may have to tweak that a little bit. So in order to tweak that a little bit, we need to know with clarity, what will those demographics need? What are the essentials that can cause us to penetrate them? We need to do that. The second slide, quick. Then, of course, we have to engage adaptability and flexibility. We cannot but do that because, like the first point says, it differs from place to place. Being adaptable to diverse cultural, economic, and regulatory environment is crucial. It's crucial. Otherwise, the society, the environment will just reject us. But we have a grace. There is such an awesome unction upon this organization that permits us to be able to penetrate. So part of being able to be welcome and be able to take our portion in all of these cities and nations and continents is to be able to ensure we are able to not only know but adapt very well into all the regulatory environments. And of course, that will include the ability to tailor products, services, and strategies to meet local needs while maintaining the brand consistency of this great organization. Permit me to run a little bit faster so that I can cover everything I have. The third one is technological infrastructure. If we are to play globally, you know we can't be everywhere. We need the wisdom of the group managing director. We need the strength of the group chairman, but they can't be everywhere. They are not inexhaustible. We need the incredible talents that just are all over this room. So in order to be able to play and play excellently well, we must be able to ask, find out, and invest in the required infrastructure that will make us to be able to do this. Look at this hall. The chairman told us we have close to 700 staff, over 900,000 PBOs, 63 MDs, over 270 offices in all the 36 states and federal capital territory. A time will come, there will be no hall anywhere in Nigeria that can hold us. And meanwhile, they need to hear from the chairman. They need to hear from the group managing director. Not just Nigeria, different nations. And going by the different time zones, we have 24 time zones in the world. You know, how do you reach out and be able to do business, provide first class training, impart the DNA of this organization? We just must, as a proof that we are bound to enter a global dimension, invest in relevant technology. Whatever it will take, we've got to get them in place. Give me the next one. And of course, we have to understand the protocol and logistical requirements of being able to deal with these. We just have to. Right now we operate in a few nations. We need to be able to take our game to the next level, whereby our efficient protocol and logistics management are essential for the global operations within a world of 24 time zones. We need to be able to deal and yet not create lapses. I had an experience once. I traveled, my wife and I, we went to preach in Guangzhou, China. On our way back, we flew through Japan. We left Japan on Saturday and arrived US on Friday. It's like traveling back in time, but it wasn't actually a time travel back. It was actually there. So with those kind of challenges, it will take some efficiency in logistics, some efficiency in protocol that will give our team access. I believe this organization is at a stage where we should be dealing with embassies and all the chambers of commerces of all the major industrialized nations to recognize us, so that at a time, all that needs to happen is the signature of the group managing director, because they know how big we are, how efficient we are, how value adding we are, and then they are ready to do business and issue anything for us. So we need to really think about how we can establish those vital relationships and networks that can help us minimize cost and optimize delivery time to be able to get things done at just the split second. The next one. Then, of course, as part of our global push, we must understand the legal and regulatory compliance frameworks of every nation. They differ. So our legal team or the research team, we have to dig into that. Some nations are very rigorous in their financial regulations. For instance, I know that it's easy to take money into South Africa, but South Africa is one of the most difficult nations to repatriate your money out of in Africa, because of some experiences we've had in that regard. So we've got to understand, so that if we are going to go into that nation, we have to determine how are we going to be able to ensure that we are not shortchanged after doing so much investment, amassing so much opportunities, and then we cannot repatriate the funds. I have one of the people I do training for, his organization. They established a couple of business. It was when he was sharing and lamenting his issues with me that I got to know about the South African issue, for instance. So we've got to ensure that there's compliance with a legal framework, so that way we can be sure we are better positioned. Then, of course, there's the multilingual support. We're going to be going across Africa, so we need some experts in the French language. We need some experts in Portuguese. We need some experts in all kinds of languages and all kinds of access, because nothing causes you to be welcomed amongst the people more than the ability to be able to rightly speak their language and show to them you are not just here to take from them, you are here to add to them and make a difference in that nation. So if we are really interested, for instance, Francophone Africa, we are not yet there. We are not yet in Francophone Africa, and we can't enter Francophone Africa without having some ability to speak excellently and communicate very well in the French language. So we need that. We can't leave that market. I just came from Abidjan on Sunday night. That economy is buoyant. It's the most buoyant, economy in the whole of Francophone Africa. So we need that. A nation like Rwanda is bilingual, even though they've accepted English as their lingua franca, but they are largely bilingual. They used to be French, but they turned to English, so they speak both. So we need all of that as a way of positioning, such that when the group chairman, the group manager, and all the group executive directors are there on a mission, they can go with some of these people to make access very easy, so that we're not just depending on their people, because there's a lot of knowledge we carry and a lot of confidence that we must repose on our aides and assistants to get the job done. So we definitely, as part of the requirement, need a multilingual service. Then, of course, very important, in a world that is culturally sensitive, in a world that is distinctly very clear as to their cultural affiliations and affinities, it's important that our cultural sensitivity and our ability to localize, in the midst of it, somebody calls it being globalization. We want to go global with a local, approach to dealing with issues. So if we are to engage in globalization, then there's got to be a cultural sensitivity, and that comes through market research. Adapt marketing message that will penetrate. The marketing message we use in Nigeria that has given us this result may not work in some places. So if we are going to, I see we're in Dublin, in Ireland, I see we're in the United States. So in order to optimize the opportunities from those markets, we must smartly and quickly find out what works here. And what works here are not things you pick on the way. It's got to come through some deliberate research effort, so that our branding can resonate with local cultures and preferences, and at the same time avoid cultural blunders, in etiquette and demonstrate sensitivity to cultural differences. Very important. How do you greet people of class, royalty, and privilege in those nations? Might not be the same way here, and all kinds of things. Those little things make a big difference in the ability to penetrate new cultures and new places. Of course, if we are to go global, we must be ready to deploy more resources. One of the things I've loved this group for is the ability to set aside money for great opportunities. So we have to understand that sufficient financial resources are needed to support global expansion initiatives, including market entry costs, infrastructure investment, and operational expenses. What works here definitely may not work in some other clients. And we have a standard for which we are known. P1 is known for excellence, is known for raising the bar, at least in the sector where we play. So as we go into those nations, we've got to be able to find out and meet the standard. We are not going as underlings or mediocres. We are going to any location to be able to operate at the level we are at, the market leaders, at least from this part of the world. So to do that, the required financial resources must be deployed. If you enter too small, you play too small. So it's important we understand. And then, of course, number 9, there is a necessity for talent acquisition and development. This is an area P1 is already a master at, but as we begin to transition into a global penetration, that has to enter a whole new phase of engagement, because we've got to recruit and develop a diverse team with expertise in international business, language skills, and cultural awareness, and foster a collaborative and inclusive work culture that values diversity and encourages innovation. It's got to be deliberate. Good things don't happen by chance. They are deliberately orchestrated in order to have the desired outcome. So we have to be intentional. As we begin to think, of a global expansion, we must have the right talents. We must have a way to recruit them and find a way to be able to source them. One of the facts of life, indisputable, is that the quality of the personnel that work for you will always determine the quality of your outcome. So that's not something to be negotiated. Then, of course, number 10, before I go to my last part, is that we must ensure our brand building and reputation management. Now, if you forget any other thing, we can't forget this. P1 is a brand. It's a brand known everywhere. It's important to us to manage the reputation of our brand. Any and everything that can cause a reduction in our brand appreciation, that can derogate from the respect and regard we have as a brand, we must fight it like war. We can't allow anything to bring it down. But that is not something you wait to happen and then try to catch up. So there must be a deliberate effort now as we go global. Because listen, in the global scene, what people do is that they check out. If you are shopping in any part of the Western world and you are advertising a thing, as you are talking, the first thing they are looking at your reviews. They are looking at your reviews on all the platforms. They are looking at what do people say. Yes, they know that people do negative marketing or demarketing. They know that. But then they are going to be able to measure and tell. And once there are certain things that do not line up, they want to do something about it. So as we plan to go global, it's important that our brand building and reputation management is not taken for granted. Because you see, here's the problem. You have no idea of measuring the implications of one negative presentation somewhere. We can't allow that. So we've got to find a way where there are people whose responsibility is to show to us how can we repackage and ensure our brand management gets to the next level. So we have to invest in brand building and reputation management strategies to establish trust and credibility in new markets. We've got to maintain consistent messaging and actively engage with stakeholders to build positive relationships. All right, so by meeting these requirements, businesses can increase their chances of building a sustainable global presence and staying relevant in an increasingly interconnected world. Let me wrap up with the next slides quickly. I recognize that we're here to celebrate, so it's not a teaching day, but this is important. Now, for us to do this, I want to recommend what we are already used to. I know the group managing director and the leaders have done some studies on the Good to Great model by Professor Jim Collins. But I want to remind you of just one of those elements. I want to remind us publicly of one of those elements, which is the level 5 leaders. You know, the ability, because as I prepared for this presentation, I'm asking what quality, what type of leadership can ensure our ability to bring this home, to achieve this. I want to remind us, because I know, and this is not overstating the reality, we have level 5 leaders in this group. I've seen many, I've talked to many, I relate with many in this group. But we have to find a way of upscaling that and creating the ability for every other person who is emerging as a leader to understand what it means to be a level 5 leader. If you have not read the book, like I know many of you have read, please go and read that book again by Professor Jim Collins. That book is over 6 million in print right now, one of the world's bestsellers on business ethics and practices. It shows to us how a good company can transition and become a great company. And I believe that that is the destiny of P1. So we have no option. Can I repeat that? We have no option than to develop more and more level 5 leaders. Because listen, if we don't have enough leaders at that level of competency, it's difficult to sustain a global push and a global expansion. So it's important we do that. So in just about 5 minutes, let me run through what that means and I'm done. The first is personal humility. Go ahead quickly. In the book Good to Great, I can talk about it, that's okay. In the book Good to Great, one of the research found that, by the way, the background of that research was that Professor Jim Collins, a professor of economics, collected 21 masters and PhD students to investigate Fortune 500 companies and select those who were able to make a transition and be able to maintain their growth for a minimum of 15 years, recording a minimum of almost 3% higher than the average in the stock market in the United States, but be able to sustain it for a minimum of 15 years. And they spread it across, and they had what they call comparison companies. So that if they had, for instance, a company like Walgreens, which is into pharmacy, they got another one in the same period, in the same class, with the same potentials and opportunities, like Eckhart's Pharmacy, and compare why one is doing well and the other is not doing well. So they got several companies across the broad spectrum of the industries, and then they were able to discover why others were plateauing and stagnating. They discover why others were moving up and sustaining it. One of those elements that they coin into what is called a level 5 leader is personal humility. The ability for a leader to come to the point where you begin to ensure you become less and less the face and more the people that are coming up as the face of the organization, whereby your joy. And again, permit me, that's one of the special things about P1. One of the things I personally love about P1 is the ability for the leaders to find so much joy in celebrating and putting others on the stage. Now, can I say to the leaders, we can't, go ahead and celebrate if you want to celebrate our leaders. Now, but please listen, don't take it for granted that the people coming behind have the same DNA. Don't take it for granted. We've got to teach it, we've got to mentor it, we've got to reward it. Because if we don't do, when we come to a stage of growth and find that we can't go further, because we have now reached a point where the neck of the funnel is getting narrower and narrower and narrower, because you are now having people who do not understand that the more people you make to rise and you give the stage and you become the wind behind their wings, the better it is for the organization. So level 5 leaders are people who have what is called personal humility. They are super efficient, but they have a way of making it known that this is the effort of a multiplied number of people. That's what personal humility talks about. The next one, quickly, professional will. Now, these are people who, in the midst of their personal humility, are extremely top-notch in their addiction to professional excellence. They don't cut corners. They do things according to international best practices. They practice the best of corporate governance. They do everything. You say, why do they do that? Because they know something, that beyond you, there are others wanting to be like you. And no growth or progress is sustainable until and unless it's anchored on values and principles that are non-negotiables. So they are very strong in that, because that's how you preserve your legacy, your destiny, and the growth that you've experienced. So these people, level 5 leaders, have a lot of professional will. Give me the next one. Resilience. Number 3 are the people who never say never. They are die hard in sticking like a bulldog, with the tenacity of a bulldog, until they see result. Did you hear the testimony of the chairman of how himself and the group president, when they started 3 months no sale, they wouldn't give up. Instead of giving up, they are always thinking, what's the next phase? What do we do next? Now, one of the things that has brought this organization this far is that, like with every other bandwagon effect thing in this country, the moment they started and they started prospering, all kinds of organizations began to come up here and there. And like the right kind of leaders with level 5 capacity, they were not thinking of giving up or moving to something else. Rather, the question was, what else can we do to remain constant, dominating the market, thriving and flourishing? And so what did they do? They came up with new innovative ideas. So resilience in adhering to the expected outcome is a necessary thing, so that they go through challenges. They know that challenges don't define people. I love the way the group president says it from time to time, that we know we have challenges, but there are no challenges we can't overcome. Anybody who lacks resilience, people who never give up, they never resign, they never cave in, they never surrender, those are the kind of stuff level 5 leaders are made of. Number 4, quickly. Number 4, passion for excellence. Passion for excellence. I can't talk about that too much. Excellence is the spirit. Excellence is a habit. Excellence is a culture. Excellence. Excellence. If it can be done better, let's not settle for what it is. Please. Please. We've come this far because this organization has anchored on excellence. To go global, we've got to take it a notch higher. We've got to take it a notch higher. We've got to take it a notch higher. Excellence has to do with under-promising and over-delivering. That's excellence. You under-promise and you over-deliver. That's excellence. Always wow the people. Give them something to say, but you said I will get it in 10 days and you brought it in 8 days. That's our culture. If you deal with several organizations outside of this country, that's what they do as a pattern. It's a standard. If a work is to be done in 5 days, they tell you 7 or 10 days. Pattern. Because it's better to surprise people pleasantly than to disappoint them woefully. Very important. That's what level 5 leaders are known for. So we've got to insist on a passion for excellence. It's always better for people to say, you know that group, if you want it, go there. Number 5, quickly. Empathy and empowerment. You see, level 5 leaders are people who have such a connection with their teams and staff and associates and everything in such a way that they connect at an empathetic level. They connect deeply, personally. And again, I see that a lot in the P1 group. It's always a pleasant surprise. The directors forum where I'm at also, and I see some of our key leaders here, they celebrate new babies. They celebrate weddings. Those are not exactly why we are here. We are here to make money from real estate. But when they do those things, they are telling something that make a difference. I see them go to ceremonies and functions, profound. Because sometimes people don't care how much you know or how much you have until they see how much you care. So empathy first for the people that work with us. We must never become slave masters and taskmasters. We cannot but connect with the people with empathy, and at the same time mix it with the necessity for empowerment. So we are both gentle on them as persons, but tough on the demand for them to improve and get better and better in order to deliver what is our non-negotiable bottom line and pursuit as an organization. Let me run. Number 6 is the strategic vision. Under this, people who have been known to be level 5 leaders are people who have over the time ensured that they always sit down to renew and tweak the vision. Now, the essentials of the vision remain the same. But listen, in visioning as a process, visions are progressive. Visions are not static. Visions are always progressive. Progressive because it must contain the element of flexibility in order to be able to meet changing times, changing seasons, and changing demands. But the strategic visioning of this organization, that for instance right now is saying, hey, we're going for the next phase of global penetration and domination. That therefore means that we've got to sit down and articulate clearly, what does that even mean? Is it going to be scattered as opportunities emerge, or because we have the might, we have the capacity to sit down at our group board and say, okay, let's do something. Let's collect Southern Africa. Let's collect Western Europe or Eastern Europe or North America, and sit down and put up a strategy and brainstorm it and delegate some of the strategic thinking to other talents within the organization. They report back to these eggheads who will now sit down and draw out a vision timetable, a vision timeline, and say, based upon this, now that we are going global, this is the push. We are allowing any opportunities that emerge to emerge, but we can't be scattered. We have the might, we have the muscle to be able to enter anywhere. So there's going to be some strategic visioning for this next phase. Number 7, and finally, integrity and ethics. Finally, integrity and ethics. It's very important. I've seen too many organizations, even in this nation, go down for lack of integrity and ethics. I've seen too many greatness go down for lack of integrity. That can never be our portion. I don't mind a better amen. I am persuaded that we can do well. I love a lot of the things I see in this group, and I know as we keep promoting that one way or the other, we can keep raising that up as a bar. Part of the way you ensure integrity and ethics become the norm instead of the exception is to reward it, is to celebrate it. So that in addition to celebrating higher sellers, can we also create a pathway for celebrating people in this group of exceptional integrity? Because what you promote grows. Can we also add the group MD man, if you don't mind? Can we also add the most ethical organization in the entire P1 group as a reward for making others know that we are here for the long haul and there are certain values that work for us? Give me the next slide. In conclusion, overall, level 5 leadership is characterized by a rare combination of humility, willpower, empathy, and integrity, which enables leaders to drive enduring greatness and create lasting impact. The final slide. God bless you. Give me the final slide. Thank you.